Welcome back, YouTube, to another Fat Guy Builds. Today, thanks to Lethal Performance and them having a bunch of options, I found a set of drive shaft shop CV shafts because I broke mine, and I'll show you that, but I just snapped it. It was like a Cheeto, and you went like, so I'm gonna show you how to change them step by step. And I'm also going to show you how to change the CV shaft seals on the diff because mine are seeping. They're not leaking, but they're obviously, it's wet around it. So let's get to this. Thanks for coming and checking out another Fat Guy Builds. This is you. This is the guy she tells you not to worry about. Don't be this guy. Look at this shit.
Don't be limp.
Jack up the car and take your rear wheels off. Grab a 32mm impact socket. Take off the center nut that holds your CV shaft to the hub. Take a 21mm. You're going to loosen this bolt and you're going to loosen this bolt. Don't take them out. Just loosen these two bottom ones. That'll let this whole thing pivot once we get the rest of this. Use a 10mm to take this bolt out, a 10mm to take this bolt out, and you're going to take an 8mm, take this out. That way you can move this speed sensor and the cable up out of the way, you know, pinch it up here or something so it's out of the way. You don't want to damage this. That would be a bad day. Use a 14mm. You're going to take the caliper off. So you have one here, one down here. Make sure your emergency brake is turned off. Take the brake pads out so they don't fall and hit the ground and crack or whatever. Just take them out, put them off to the side. Just set the brake caliper on the sway bar over here. If you want to feel better, use some metal tie wire, tie it up. You're going to use a mixture of 15mm and 18mm. You're going to pull these nuts off and pull this bolt all the way out. Same thing with this one that holds this horizontal bar. Pull the bolt all the way out on both of these. You're going to use an 18mm and you're just going to loosen this one so that this vertical arm will pivot. Once you have these bolts out, you're going to stick the pry bar down in here. And at the same time you're prying this out, you're going to be pushing this in by grabbing the front of the CV shaft here, pulling it back and up vertical. And once you have this thing coming out, the splines, this entire part will be up here. Then we're going to have to go under and unclip the CV shaft from the differential. Now it's sitting like this. We're gonna lift the car up a little more, get underneath, and pop out the axle from the diff. You're gonna take a nice size pry bar. You're gonna go up in here with the pry bar, and you're just gonna pry the thing out of the diff. If it's giving you a hard time, you might have to take it like that and then whack it with a hammer to get it to pop out. But whatever you got to do, just do it. So I'm gonna have to hit this with a hammer. The ones I bought are the 2,000 horsepower drive shaft shop models. It's a RA8555X6, and this is the driver's side. You're gonna have two different lengths here that go into the differential, so pay attention that you don't accidentally try to put them in the wrong spot. I just put some grease all over this. That way it just slides in through the seal a little better. You're going to want to be very careful when you put this in that you don't nick or cut the seal that rides right here and keeps your differential fluid inside the housing. Here's the passenger side. make sure they match. And the part number on this one, RA8556X6. You're gonna twist this thing side to side as you're pushing it in. So it's nice to have one person on this end while you're feeding it in carefully through this hole. Now you're gonna hold it like this. You're gonna push forward, which is into the diff, and you're gonna tap the face of this, making sure that this entire CV shaft is straight. You're gonna tap it with a dead blow hammer, rubber mallet, or something like that to verify the C-clip is seated. If you can pull it out of the diff by hand, it's not seated, try again. Tighten everything up in the reverse order that you took it apart. I did these ones at the bottom last. That way the whole thing would move in order to get all this geometry back together. You're gonna need AutoZone tool 27111. This is for getting the brake piston back down. And you're gonna set this up, tighten this where it raises and touches here. Then you're gonna turn this clockwise. Clockwise, it'll push this down. Go ahead and put your brake caliper and brake pads back on. Tighten down these 14mm bolts for the brake pad. Then you're gonna go and put the two 10mm back to hold the brake lines, and the 8mm back to hold the speed sensor. Grab a pry bar or flathead screwdriver. In the process of pry barring it this way, I bent the heat shield. This will hit the brakes and make noise, and you'll be like, what's happening to my car? So pry this away from the brake rotor. Like, share, subscribe. Check me out on Instagram, FatGuyBuilds_YT for YouTube. And till next time, wrench on.